Okay, so good morning. Today is our fourth session. Let's go ahead and see what are topics for today. So today we will be going through something called OWD settings, which is abbreviation for organization-wide defaults, and we'll learn today what does that really mean. We will also go through role hierarchy. What does it mean by role hierarchy, and how does it impact on your data sharing and other visibility from the visibility perspective. Then there is also some sharing settings, how you can manually share some of the settings or records to some of your colleagues if you're owner of the record. And then we will jump into our next topic for today. This is our next section, which we will be starting, which is data management. And everybody can go back to mute if you don't have anything.
నువ్వు పెట్టుకో నువ్వు పెట్టుకో పెట్టు దాంట్లో ఆ ల్యాప్టాప్ లో పెట్టు నాకు కొన్ని వాటర్ ఇవ్వ
Okay. All right. So so these are the topics for today. Let's go ahead and start. So before I go to OWD setting, what we have learned so far is we understood if we are working as a different department, or if we are basically how we can make sure that somebody can able to view a particular object. Within the object, you can able to see from where you can do some settings and you can make it readable, non-readable. We also talk about, let's say, if we are using same profile and then you have a manager in the same group using the same profile. Now he needs a little bit more access. Maybe he need an access to an additional application, maybe additional object, maybe additional read-write permissions or any of that sort. So we learned that you can use another set on top of it, which is sharing setting, and you can permission sets, and you can put the permission sets on top of your sharing settings on profile, which can give somebody additional permission. So that thing we already established so far, that how do you manage different profiles. And then usually our main aim is to keep the number of profiles, number of permission sets, any other settings to the minimum. Try to also come up with the idea that if we are trying to make some changes, how it can impact universally. So if we are making more profiles, is it going to be too headache for future? Because you also need to see if you have more people joining in, what is the pattern you want to follow. So usually, as I said, we'll try to keep the number of profiles at minimum, but again, anything which is justifiable, a couple of different, each different group, if they're doing a specific job, I believe it makes sense to have a profile for their particular group. And within that group, if you have few people who need more access, then you can use permission sets on top of it. So all those we have established. Now we are talking about, and I don't know if we touch upon this on the previous lecture or not, but now we are started touching upon the actual records. So for example, so now just think about who is creating the record. So when I say creating the record, we established that, and let me also open up an Excel. So when we talk about records, so let's say this is record 1, and then you have multiple records. So each record is, at the end of the day, will be created by an owner, right? So let's say Ali is one of the users. He created 10 records, and Sarah is another person working in the group, and she created rest of the 5 records. So each record is created by a person. So let's talk about both of them work in the sales group. So they work in the same team, but obviously they are working in a different accounts or making different calls. Or let's say if we are talking about our property app, obviously they have different clients and different properties that they're selling. So for example, record 1 is property 1. Ali actually talked to the client, he opened up a ticket, he opened up a record in the system, and then he's kind of owner of that record, or he's just managing that record, and he's talking to the client. Same thing, there are a couple of records for Sarah. She's working with these number of properties and here. Now, let's say we have another person who is who wants to, and then let's say in this team we have a manager, Tom. So let's say Tom basically wants to make sure that Tom have access to uh, all the records, right? So first of all, before we see who can see it, what can see it, basically what I'm trying to elude is we need to understand that each record, there is a different ways that we can allow. So one is if your organization is very open. So again, this based upon different type of organization. So let's say if the organization is very open, meaning that you're not working with anything which is very secure, right? Let's say you're not working for a secure environment. The data is very nominal. Like let's say, something like property. So it's not really secure data. You're not working for any federal agency, or you're not working for anything which is very, very secure, or you're not working or dealing with the financial aspect of things, or social security and things of that sort. So other than that, if the data is very, if your organization structure is very open, and who will define that? The organization that you're working, their management will define what kind of organization is that. So if your organization is very open, meaning that there is no secure data, there is no problem if somebody can view other records, that's fine. Then it's we can call that an open security or open setup. If your organization is very strict or secure, or so then we can call it like a really close. In that case, you don't want other people to see even your other colleagues records. So if they are working on some records, you will not see that. Only maybe manager can see everybody's record, but between themselves they cannot even see their record. So what does it mean? It means that if I create a record, so all of these records, when Sarah log into her system, she will only see these records, but she don't have any idea that there are other records available under the name of Ali. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay. So this is called like a actual record security, and this comes under the concept that we are about to learn, which is called OWD, which is organization wide default. So what is your organization wide default? Is your organization very open? Everybody can see everybody's record. Again, you can restrict them in terms of if they can edit the records or not. But I mean, can they see your record or not to start off? Can they see it or cannot see it? That you can decide that by default, if you set up organization wide default, let's say private. Okay. If you set up organization wide default private, meaning that when you start your system, everybody will only able to see the records that they have created. Let's say if there are 10 other people working in the same group and they're also creating records, then Ali can only see these records, what he's creating. Sarah can only see the records that she's creating. Anybody else can see their own records. So that is called private. So meaning that you don't even want your teammates to see each other records. Okay, so that's called private. Then you have open, or let's just walk through some of the details. So OWD setting, this is called record level security. So as I talked about here, this is the record. Previous to that, we talked about different objects, profiles, different things. Now we are getting to a point where now we are talking about the actual records. So who is creating the records? Can you see the other people who are creating records or not? So this is a record level security. Base level security that you want to set up for the organization, so everyone will have access. So again, as I said, if your organization is such that where the requirement is the team members between themselves should able to see each other records, that's fine, or should not able to see that. So you define it. Let's say you don't want them. So you can make it very secure, or if it is open, then you can open it up for them. So overall security for the user, object level security, field level security, record level security. So this is overall. So we first learned about the object. Do you have access to the object? Then you understood, do you have access to the field? And then we go into there that even though you have object level security, meaning that Sarah has access to the object, obviously, and she also have access to the field. So she can even able to see all the 10 fields. But still, she is not able to see all these records, meaning that we are restricting from this point, meaning that we are restricting from the record level. So from object level, we allow, that's why they both belong to the same object. Second thing is all the fields that say each record has 10 fields, both of them can able to see all the fields. So that is fine too. But when we talk about the record, who own the record, from that point of view, Sarah cannot see. If we want, we can restrict Sarah not to see the Ali's record, and we can restrict Ali not to see Sarah records. Okay, so that is the point that we are exploring right now, which is called organization-wide defaults, and I'll show you as well. So again, if you have some tie in any of these settings where you have set up different things here and there, anything which is more restrictive, that will take into effect. So anywhere I showed you last time also, if you set up a field from profile and then from other side, and then, they are kind of a contradict, anything which is more severe, that will take effect. Okay, not before, not after, not what is done first, what is done after. It's just basically whichever between the two is more secure, more restrictive, that will take into effect. Now we have three types of option for organization wide default, or in short, we'll just gonna call it OWT. So one is private. As I said, only you can view your own records. So if we make this system private, then obviously only Ali can see his own record, Sarah can see her own records. Sharing rules, and then manual settings. Sorry, public read only, meaning that everybody can see everybody's record, but read only. So for example, now Sarah can see all the records created by Ali, so she can actually able to see the list of all the 15 records, but it's only what? View only, meaning, I'm sorry, read only, meaning that she can view it, but she cannot edit it. Okay, and then the third option, as the name suggests, public read write, meaning that not only she can see all the records available in the system, but also she can basically able to write, meaning edit any record as well. Okay, so these are the three options. You set it up as a default, and let's say again this will be discussed with the team, discussed with the management. So management says this is, in our organization private works best, and then you open up the different access point, because let's say in this scenario, if we go with the private, in some cases you need to have managers to able to see all the records, or directors can see all the records, or all the rest of the management see. So you need to make some additional settings by using different other things that we will learning after this. But basically right now we are first setting up our foundation. The foundation is based on the record. If you are creating record, can other people see that record or not? So first you decide on that, meaning that your company will decide on that, and they'll let you know that they want to go with the private model, they want to go with the public read write, read only model, or they want to go with public read write. So you, based on whatever they tell you, you can set it up. And now once they set it up, now they come back and say, you know what, yeah, this is good. We set up, for example, private, or we set up public read only, but you know what, the managers need additional access. They at least need to do, they need to actually get, although for everybody else we have private, but the managers need to have read write, or managers need to have read only. So something that we have used in the past, like permission sets. So we have additional things on top of it, which is role hierarchy, sharing rules, and manual sharing, that will help you pass that stage. But the other things that we already learned, they will not affect in the record level. They will only affect on where? On the object level, field level, and application level. So that part needs to be clear, that part that we already learned in the previous section, that was dealing with a higher level objects, higher level fields, higher level applications, things of that sort. But now we are talking about, okay, you have access, you can create it, but between different users, what you can or cannot see. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so let me give a quick demo, and then we can make some changes and see what does it really mean. So again, on my Chrome browser, I have the admin logged in this property. I can go and try to make sure that I have all the properties. So right now we have 6 properties, and let's see, I also created a view that we discussed in the last session, which is a little bit more customized, so you can able to see who created what. So here is created, so 2 to 4, 4 records are created by KLE, 2 records by test user. So right now, and again, you might you might basically just keep in mind that all the time admin is not the right area to do any sort of testing, because again, admin has most rights. They might have something set up in the background. So even if you put something, admin may be showing you more access, because as you know, admins has more access. So for that purpose, we can go to our second user, make sure this is our second user. Okay, our test user, and then we can go to Unboxx properties and want to see how many records are there. So did you notice that we have only 2 records showing up here, although there are about 6 records. So custom view, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so you see only 2 records, and if I want to see my custom view, so those 2 records are from test user. So basically what it means that here uh, we have setting up the OWD setting based on private setting, meaning that whoever is creating their record, they can only see their own records. So let's go ahead and change that to public read write or public read only. And again, in order to do that, we can go to setup. So there's no separate thing called OWD. They all come under something of heading called sharing settings. So if you go into sharing settings, now you can able to see this called OWD, which is organization wide default. So keep in mind, sometimes you get confused because most of the things are with their same name, but here OWD setting doesn't come up as OWD or organization wide default. They are under sharing settings. So once you are on the sharing settings, you can see these are all the different objects. So let's go ahead and check our object that we were looking into. So see, Unboxx property is the object. And yeah, give me a quick, let me give you a quick introduction. So this is your object list. The second thing is default internal access. So everything that we are doing right now, this is called our internal access, like internal Salesforce access. Default external access. Default external access means that if you are connected with another system, so Salesforce is connected to another system, that could be another SAP system or another third-party system, whatever that is, and you are providing access or you are having the data that can be viewable by external system, that is the setting of that. So obviously, during our training, we don't have any external system connected, so we don't need to worry about that. And then there is another column called grant access through hierarchies. So although it's like a next step, but I can give a quick introduction here as well. So what do you mean by grant access using hierarchies? So hierarchies means that in Salesforce, you can set up hierarchies, and I'll show you after this how you can set it up, meaning that you can set up your team, and then you can set up the manager, and then you can set up the VP, and then you can set up the CEOs and all that stuff. So if you set up them and assign users to them, so let's say you have 10 people, 5 people work in the team, so you assign all those 5 people to the marketing team. Then you assign 1 person to the VP, then you assign 1 person meaning 1 user. In terms of Salesforce, you assign 5 users to team, 1 users to VP, 1 users to that, and that's how you arrange them. And then when you are using this checkbox, meaning that if you have the hierarchies turned on, which means that if you checkbox here, meaning that your hierarchies are turned on. If they are turned on, by default, they will take hierarchy approach where your managers, who is the higher in the hierarchy, can able to view your records. Okay, so again, this is I'll show you how you can set up the hierarchies, but testing for hierarchies is not really possible, because again, we have the admin which have all the rights, so we can make admin as a higher in hierarchy, but again, because admin already able to see everything, so it's not really a good test. But I'll show you what does it really mean, and then maybe once you are working in a real environment, you can able to see that. Or if I able to get a chance to show any other client data, usually or most of them are secure, I cannot really show. But I mean, if I'll check if I have something that I can show you or some example, I can forward. But anyways, I'll show you the whole steps how you can do that. So here, coming back to OWD settings, so right now it says private, and it is confirmed by, if I go to the second user, it is confirmed here that the second user, if I go to the Unboxx property, only see 2 records, and these 2 records are actually belongs to the user. So meaning that every person will only see their own records. Now here, Again, don't confuse the records from the admin, because again, if you remember in the profile settings, admin has all the rights. They have data administrator as well, modify all, view all. So they have additional access. Because of that, they are superseded, right? So again, admin is not the good for testing anything. What we are trying to do is making sure we go to admin, go to setup, make all the changes, and then where do we go for testing? We go to our test user to actually test it out, and make sure your test user do not use the admin profile, because again, then he will also basically, whatever you are doing, it will be surpassing that. So those two things are very, very important, that you are making all the changes from admin, and then you're observing all the changes from your second user, and you need to open in a second browser if you want to work in parallel. All right, so going back here, we see private, or let's do a quick test and change it to another setting. So it's simple, straightforward, because again, if you have the concept, if you know where to go, after that, it's pretty straightforward, like all the rest of the other things. So here you go, make a change, you go down to the object that we're looking for. We talk about these three options right there. Let's say I want to change it to public read write, save it, and pretty much that's it, right? It might take like a minute or two, but we'll wait, and then we'll start refreshing our observer or the test user, and see if the changes are happening. Here you go. So this is still my test user, and you can see that now we start able to see all the records, right? Again, I go to my custom view so that we can show you that this is KLE records, Testly records. Prior to that, when we had this thing under um, under private, it only shows that. Also keep in mind that this is based on each object. It's not based on overall, or it's not based on individual applications. It's basically based on individual objects. So you can choose what kind of setting you want on individual objects. So let's say an example, let's say rest of the data, which is, let's say, technical data and stuff like that, those objects you can all make either public read write or public read only. And then you have some objects where you have more secure data. So for example, you have an object where you are saving the sales price, or maybe the HR object where you are saving all the salaries of the employees, or like your profit informations, or anything which is secure. Or you have an object where you have your client social security numbers, their phone numbers, their personal information, and then you don't want those objects to be exposed to everybody, and you just want to keep them private. So that's where you can use that. So individual objects can be controlled via this OWD settings, and then they can, as you see, that they can have different settings. So for example, the offer can be controlled, like offer is a child object, so this is controlled. But for example, if it is not a master detail but lookup, then you can change this to any other setting if you want, if you will. Same thing here. If you have other objects, you can see every object has their own setting available, so you can make whatever you want. Okay, so coming back here, let's go ahead and change back just to show you how it is working. Same thing, come back to the object, do the private again, save it, go back to our object. Right now we see all of the 6 records. Give a refresh few times. Here you go. Again, it goes back to the default of everybody see their own records. Okay. Any questions so far for the OWD settings? I'm going to go ahead and change it back to read write so we can able to see all the records. But yeah, anybody has any question, anything which is not clear? Okay. If there is any chat message, let me, okay, very good. Okay, so it sounds like no question, pretty straightforward. Okay, now let's talk about, okay, we did, or you know what, let me go back and make it private, and then we can actually go to the next step where, like last time when we use profiles and we restrict the access, and then we use permission sets to provide the additional access. So very similar idea, but this time we are only viewing it from the perspective of the records, right? So here, go back to the default, like make it private. The user can only see the records he created. Obviously, admin has more rights, so he can see that, but he can also have a hierarchy option. So I also check the hierarchy option, and this user, which is manager, is also higher in the hierarchy, so he can see anybody, all the records who is under the manager, or I'll show you once we go to the hierarchy. Now, the second option that we have is, okay, how to open it up? Okay, as a default for this object, we make it private. But as I said, like maybe there's another person who is not the manager, he's the colleague, but he's a senior person. He needs to see those records because he's helping other teammates. Although he's not a manager, he's, let's say, maybe a lead person or lead sales guy in the team, or lead marketeer, and he needs access. He's a specific case. So how to do that? So same thing as we did it last time, where profile wise, we set it up across the board because let's say, again, take an example of 100 people. We don't want to set 100 people individually. So we set it up, create one profile, and then start giving some additional access using the permission set. So now here, same thing for one object. Again, we are now talking about object by object. So one object, by default, we said, okay, make it private. Now we have scenario, this is a team of 100. There are like one lead person or few lead users who need additional access. So how you can do that? So here you can say that go to the setup home sharing setting. So you can actually use additional sharing setting in order to give additional access. Okay, and how you can give the or how you can use the sharing setting, let's learn about that. So let's go back to our admin. Let's go back to the sharing setting. We'll keep on the same page. The first portion of it deals with OWD settings, and if you scroll down, as soon as you pass that, then you start seeing something called sharing rules. So the next thing is, as you remember the permission sets, very similar concept in the sharing rules. But again, over there, we just created the sharing rules and then assign it. Kind of very similar, but just a different step. So we can go straight to our object first under the sharing rules. So each object has their own separate section, right? So you see that all of them are there. So here we have Unboxx property sharing rules. So every section has their own rules. So here, because we were making changes, so it's kind of refreshing. So let's go ahead and give it a few minutes so that it can be stabilized. Okay, it's stabilized, good to go. So what we need to do here we need to create some sharing rules which can basically surpass, or which can overshadow the OWD setting for specific people. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So we can go here, create new, and we want to say sharing rules for lead. Okay. Now here, you have two choices. So either you can assign the records based on the record owner. Okay, so you can either say all the records owned by Ali, or basically the group that Ali belongs can be viewed by this person, right? Or things of that sort. Or you can do based on criteria. So you can say, let's say you have like 10 people working, but you just want to show this person all the records that belongs to zip code 20165. So you can here select the zip code and assign it. Also, you can add like only assign the records which has, let's say, property price more than $1,000, or more than $100,000, or more than 500,000, or more than million. So either all the records that belongs to a certain criteria or belongs to a certain group of people. So either way, you can give all that access to this sharing rule, right? So let's say we are creating the sharing rule. So let's say we go here, we have different roles and subordinates. So let's go into the role section. And then here we have what role access that we want to give. We want to share the internal all the access. So this team is called marketing team. So actually, the test user, this user belongs to the marketing team. So we would just want to share all the marketing team access record with someone. So here, select the users to share with. So here we choose what are all the records we want to share. So we decided all the records from the marketing team needs to be shared with who, right? So here we can decide that we want to share with which group or which role or a certain group. So if we can go to certain group, we can choose like all internal users, right? Or we can create our own groups. Remember, we I don't know if we have gone through the groups or not, but again, we can actually create our own groups. And in that group, you can put all your leads, right? So let's say you have 100 marketeers, and then you have 10 leads who are working. So you can easily go and create a group, and then you can assign your 10 leads to that particular group. And here, once you come up, then you can see that list of all the groups. So here, if we go to the roles, you can basically assign, the roles that we are looking for. So, for example, here, if I want to give this access to my manager, VP marketing, I can do that. Or as I said, I can even choose a specific role and I can give it. So right now, again, because we don't have multiple settings, I'm just choosing the marketing team by itself. And let's say here we can say read write and save it. Okay, so let's see. I can do one other thing. I can try to play around with the admin as well and see if we can create a sample for there. But let's see how does this one works first. Okay, this one doesn't work too well. So what I can do is basically try to use the admin, and that would be a little bit make sense because they belong. So we need to have like two different groups. Again, it's a little bit confusing. Either we can create a separate group or we can do that. So let me see if I can restrict this one, and then we can able to see all the records from here. So what I can do is I can change um, the admin profile. All right, and go ahead and go all the way down to, yeah, so see all of them are here. So let's go ahead and change that for temporary. Again, I don't recommend this to make a lot of changes for the admin profile, but here is just we want to test it out. So let's do that. Okay, so yeah, so it doesn't even allow me because we are actually using the admin profile, so it won't even allow me to change that. So let me try something else. Let me try to make a separate group, but so it's unfortunately the same user that we are trying to give access. So it's a little bit confusing, but let me see how we can test it. Or is it? Oh, actually, I think it's working now. Oh, this is Kelly. Okay, this is test user. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so because we don't have any additional users, so it's a little bit tricky to test this thing out. But anyways, if I go back to our sharing settings, the main idea is what we are doing is basically we are going to the sharing setting, we are creating new one, and then what we are doing is basically we are uh, assigning all the records from a particular role or a public group, And then, for example, this group that we are assigning is we can create a separate group. Unfortunately, we don't have two test users that we can put one test user in one group, another test user in another group, and then we can assign it to the second user or a role. So either we can choose a different role. Right now, let's say both of them are under the same role. Like, I mean, we have just one user, test user, which is under the test. So we don't have two user. Otherwise, we can either have two separate roles or two separate groups. So either way we can do that, and then we can assign them additional access like read write, and then save it, and then that person can able to view. Simple, same thing as a permission sets. Okay, does it make sense, or is it still confusing? I'll try to think about maybe another example during the break. I know I have done that in the past. I just, top of my head, I just kind of don't remember how I use the admin to do that. But I'll think about it maybe during the break. And if I come back with an example, I'll let you know. But overall, I think you get the idea. It's a similar idea as a permission set. This set sits on top of it, and it will be not choosing a single user, but you can have like a group of users, or even a single user can be created in a second group, and then between the two users. So over there we were just choosing the different object, and then we can say, okay, assign this permission set to this user, this user, this user. Here we are saying that, okay, all the records belong to which group, right? So either is a group. So let's say you have 100 people, you can create a group saying that, okay, these are 10 people working in the area 20165, and you create one group, and you put all those 5 users in a single group. So let me actually show you group part at least. So let's say if you want to create a public group, all you can do is you can say new, and here you want to say, let's say I want to create a group uh, 20165. So let's say we want to have all the salespeople in working in the area code 20165, create one group, right? Out of, let's say we have 100 total people. So here available members, so we can say all the users. So again, we don't have that many users, but we have only 2 users. So let's say both of these 2 users, actually we want to have them into this group, and that's it. We can create a new group and save it. So now we have a group called group 20165. And this is how you can create multiple groups. Same way you can create another group with, okay, group leads, group like a senior manager, or senior salesperson, or something like that. And then you can go back to our sharing setting, and then basically you can use the group settings here, and then you can choose public group. Like, see, the group start coming up over here. So for example, you want to share all of these records that are belong to this group to, let's say, a role, or here also you can create another public group for a lead person. And right now I did not create it, but let's say if you want to have another group that is created only for one person, they can have multiple people in that group as well. So instead of individual, still you are assigning to individuals, but in shape of groups. So create a separate group and then assign it, and give the kind of access you are trying to give. So either you can give read only or read write. Why not private? Because private is already there, right? It is already private. So it cannot restrict the access. It can open up the access. Like in same thing in permission sets. It cannot go back. It cannot restrict access, but only open up a further access. So you can either choose read write, or you can choose read only or read write, and then save it. And then once you have this working, then basically your users who are now with the new additional access, they can able to see more records which are belong to this group of salespeople. All right. Any questions? Very quiet today. Is everybody there? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Actually, we have you selected select which record to be shared with the group 20165, right? We have selected that option. And in step 4, select the users to share with. Again, we have selected public groups and all internal users. Won't that be conflict?
Yeah. So,
Won't
okay. So
con-
I just gave you an example. So what you really need to do, like, again, we cannot test this environment, but let's say if you are talking about like a real case scenario. So what you can do is you can create another group, and let's say this time I would say group, and there's just one person who is a lead person. Okay, you know, you want to share the records from, let's say, two people that are working in the 20165, and we add those two people in the other group. Okay, 20165, and then we want to share their records with this lead person. So here what we can do, we can only add this lead person. Just imagine lead person is this one. Okay, although this is not a real user, but in your real environment you will have this person. Okay, you will add that and you will save it. Okay, now you have a separate group. So just keep in mind, this 20165 group contain the people whose records need to be shared with who? The people who are available in this group. Make sense? Then we actually go back to our sharing settings, and then here we just choose it. Same way I just showed you, that from, so this is basically from, select which records to be shared. So this is from who? Public group 20165. And again here, in our case, we added two, but again, let's imagine you added 5 of the team member that you want to share. And then share to, select the user to share with. So this is with who? We want to share with another group that we just created with the lead person. So let's say it could be one person, or maybe there are two leads, or whatever that is. And then you give them access, read, write, and save it. Now,
Means in this case, we are giving access to those records who belongs to only that group lead who is also in the 20165, right?
no, no, no. So this group 20165, let's say they have, uh, I can give you an example. Okay. So for example, group 20165. Okay.
But
In
we
this
are
group,
giving access to two groups who are in that, like users who are in
exactly.
20165 and this
So,
one.
so this is one group, and
Okay.
this is what it is. So you are giving access to all the records from these three people to this person.
Okay.
And you can add more people also. As I said, let's say you said, you know what, I need to give also not just Jerry, but Kamal as well, right? So here you go. You can add in that person in that group, and you now Jerry and Kamal have able to see all the records by these three people. You want to add more people here. You want to, like, for example, they need access to like one more person. Sure, no problem. You know, so you can give another person, whatever that is, right? So you can start adding the people who want to, who do you want to give access, and you can create groups and just share between the groups. So this is from, and this is to, from who to
Okay.
who. That's it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And now you also understand why at least this group part we cannot test, because we have only one user. The other user is already admin, so he already have all the access to see all the records regardless. So that might not be a good test. Okay. Any other question? But good question. Thanks for asking. Any other question from anybody else? Yes, Anita, go ahead. Do you have any question? Okay, no, okay, perfect. Um, very good. Okay, so let's move to the next item, which is in the same thing. We also saw something called hierarchy. Okay, so there are, so again, as I said, when you restrict the access through OWD, how you can open up? You can open up three different ways. You can open up using a sharing rules, which I just showed you. So basically, you can create a rule, you create a private, so now everybody can see only their own records. Then you can also create, now you need to open up for few people, right? Like the same way you did for permission set. Now you can able to create sharing rules. Let's say sharing rules again will give very explicit access, right? Meaning that, okay, if I need to give all the managers access, I need to create sharing rules for all the managers and give it to them, right? So that's just sounds like an additional task. So that's why they have created something generic, which is called role hierarchy. So they are saying that if you turn on role hierarchy, by default, all the managers able to see the records of their subordinates. Okay, so you don't need to create any sharing rules for managers, because managers, if you turn on the hierarchy, And if you have your role set up, and I'll talk about role setup in a second, but if you already have the role set up and you can turn on the role hierarchy, how did you turn on the role hierarchy? From here. If the checkbox is there, if it is checked, meaning that your role hierarchy is on. So if your role hierarchy is on, and you can able to and you can if your role hierarchy is on, your managers, and then the manager's manager, so if you have a manager, he can see the records for subordinates. Then the manager records and subordinates can be seen by a higher director. Then the director records and everybody below him will be seen by the VP, and all the records below will be seen by CEO, for example. And then CEO, all the records below will be seen by COO. So as higher you go in the hierarchy, all the records below them can be seen. But if there are two VPs, you can see all the records below the VP, but not across the VPs, right? So you cannot see their records. But anything that is under your team, and I can show you very quickly, is pretty straightforward, like how you set up the hierarchies. So this is called under roles. So again, roles are basically every company has different type of roles. So you can start with the CEO, then you have CXOs, then you have your directors or VPs, and then your team and everything. And every company has different hierarchies. Some are shorter, some have more, some is flat, whatever that is. But here we can set it up based on the axis. So not necessarily you need to follow based on your actual company hierarchy. You can follow that too. But again, it's more about how people want to see data. So for example, in the sales team, there is a lead person. Although he's not your manager, he's just a lead person, but he should be able to see your records, because let's say he's a person who technically helps you. And then there's a manager. So you can set up lead person on one stage higher, and then the manager on top of it. So you can set those things up based on how your hierarchy, how that company hierarchy is working. So let's go ahead and set up roles. So here, this is the template is available. So for example, here we have different things. So for example, if we go all the way up to the marketing, we have VP marketing, then we have marketing team, and then this is how it is. So for example, in the marketing team, in our case, obviously we have just two roles to assign. So let's say I want to assign our test user to the marketing team and our admin to the to the VP marketing. And again, if you have, obviously, when you're working in an environment, you will have different roles, and you can also create new roles as well, and you can add new roles as well. So here, for example, underneath VP marketing, you want to change the name, you can edit and you can change the name. If you want to add a new role below it, you can add a new role using the add role option. So you can customize it as much as you want. In our case, what we want to do is we want to assign somebody to the VP marketing. I already assigned it, but you can see that how you can assign pretty straightforward. If you click on assign, here you have, okay, who do you want to assign? So here you will have like a list of all the users, so all users. And again, I already assigned KLE, but just reassign it. So for example, my admin, I want to assign it as a VP marketing. So assign that, save it. That's it. That is done. Now for the team, marketing team, same thing. I can assign. I already assigned it previously, but just I can remove it. So the other user that I had was test user. I can assign it and then save it, and that's it. And he will be assigned. So similar way, one by one, you need to assign all of your team members to particular roles, and then the managers to manager roles. If the role does not exist, you can create a role. If you want to edit the name of the role instead of VP International Sales, you don't have that. You can just delete this section. So whatever your section is, you can create your own sections. You can have CEO, you can have CFOs, CEOs, VP. So they have given the basic tree structure of the organization, and then based on your actual organization, you can modify that, edit the names of the roles, and then this assign means you can assign different people. And simple as I said, you can just choose the list of all the users from here, and then it will show you the list, and then you can start choosing the just moving your selected roles for this particular selected user for this particular role on the right hand side, and you should be good to go. So once you set up the hierarchy, and then you go back and basically make sure that in the sharing settings, if the checkbox is also on, for example, most of the cases it's on already, and if it is on, And again, if it is not on here, but again, you see that control by parent, meaning that whatever setting is my Unboxx property is, it will follow that. So technically it is also checked in, right? So basically all of these are basically working in a hierarchy role as it granted from here. And it means that anybody who is manager on a higher level, they will get automatically access to the record. So instead of you um, basically creating sharing rules for all the managers, you don't need to. You can just make sure the role hierarchy is all set up, and all the managers and everybody's properly assigned to their roles. Role hierarchy is checked in and you're good to go. Now after that, if you need to give more people access, and usually the way I see in the real world is, for example, let's say if we have, you know, two salespeople working on a common account, and they have like a private setting where they want to share. So that's where either or they want to share their thing, or you can also individually share it. So the last option here is, let's say if two people are working on the same account, like two sales consultants are working on the same project or same property or same record, and you know the other person want to see the record, obviously they are working together, might look into more details. So the third option is manual sharing. So manual sharing means that a person who is the owner of the record can manually share a record or multiple records to somebody that they want to share with. So let's look it up, this last option. So this option is, okay, so this option is not available in the Lightning, which is our actual view. So we need to go back to our previous classic view. So we need to switch back to our classic view. And just to give you an idea that, you know, I think this will be coming up soon. I saw something. So if I see new updates that when this feature is available in the Lightning, I'll share it with you. But right now, just to see how does this manual sharing work in the previous view, like you can always switch to the previous view. And then for example here, like the objects that we have created, we already created in the Lightning. So I don't even see our app available in the classic view. So here, for example, if I go to the accounts, and then let's say I want to share a particular account, like say this account, Burlington, Burlington Textile Corp of America, and I want to share with somebody, I can click on sharing. Very simple, it's just a button available there. And then here I can say add, and then I can just add the person that I want to share with. So for example, I want to share this with the test user. That's it, and I can just share it. And then that's it, save, and that's it. Okay. So anyways, in this one, it's already given, but let's say I want to give it to some other user. This access is already granted. So let's say I want to try a public group. Okay, so you know, because it was already, the access was already granted, so that's why it was not giving it. But anyways, the simple way is you can choose a user or a group like the way we did last time, and then give them like a hand-picked records to a particular user. And for example, let's say you guys, you know, these two folks work for a week. After that's done, then this person can come back and just delete the record access, and then that's it. And the access access for the record will be removed from the user. So this is also like the way how a individual is giving the access. The individual can also take back the access after the requirement is over. So this is like a third type of access. And again, the only trick to that is right now, just for testing purposes, to understand, you know it, you can just switch it to your Salesforce Classic. So you go under your name, switch it to Salesforce Classic. And then right now you can test it either with the accounts or contacts or opportunities, things like that. And then just test it out. It's available on top of it. It's just a single button. You can click on it. You can choose the users, assign it. And when you're done with that, you can remove the room. So simple, very, very straightforward stuff. Any questions from OWD, role hierarchy, sharing settings, manual settings? And then there are a couple of steps to do, but again, I kind of walk through you all the steps, so you should be able to good to go and able to do your all the settings on your own. Any questions so far? Because now we will be closing this security and then moving it to our next topic, which is data management. Let me see. Okay, I haven't heard any, I haven't seen any chat message. Anything else at all, guys? I mean, are you guys clear with the difference between the records, overall objects, overall applications, what is profile? So just to keep in mind, again, I can spend maybe 5-10 minutes on just giving some emphasis. And then obviously, because we are getting into our fourth session, so start giving you some ideas about some next steps as well. So just keep in mind that the topics that we are going through, most of these topics are also asked in the interviews. So the security setting, the one that we just finished, the security portion of it, the security management is very, very key to Salesforce, because the overall security is managed by these different options that I just shared with you. So keep in mind that when we say security, it's not just about we are securing the data. It's basically the security setting, or inside security means that what is the flow of your application in terms of security, right? So who can see all the objects within the object, because overall we are sharing the same database. So there is just one database where there is individual record is just one record. Now you need to see that this database with the records is shared between, it could be 5 people company, it could be 50, it could be 500, it could be 5,000, or it could be 500,000. I think the largest client is maybe 300,000. So let's say if it is shared between like a really, really big organization or a lot of people, how do you manage that? Because you don't want people to by mistake making changes. So do they have access? Can they able to view it? If they can view it, can they able to change it? If they can able to change it, can they also able to delete it? So all of these things needs to be managed in Salesforce, because while it is on the cloud, it means that we are using the shared database. So how you are managing that database is basically governed by these security settings. And again, these security settings are very, very, very critical to any organization, because based on that, their whole model will be working, because that is how you can control who can able to view it, who can able to edit it, what records who can see it, what objects who can see it, and things of that sort. So this is one of the favorite topics in interviews. And again, it may not be just simple as, okay, what is sharing rules, what is manual sharing. Usually the question that comes into the interviews is based on scenarios. So how this scenario works. And again, the reason why they comes into scenarios, that in most of the cases, when you are going through an interview and you are saying you have some experience, they want to know what is your experience, how did you manage it. They might throw a couple of scenarios. Unless you are going for a position which is entry level position and you're saying, I don't know anything, this is my first job, maybe they might not go into the details. And maybe they, in that scenario, they might ask you more of a, okay, tell me how the sharing setting work, or how the profile works, or how these things work. So then they might go into that kind of questions. But usually 90% of the time, if you're saying that I have some sort of experience, either it is 1 year or multiple year experience, then they will ask you more of a scenario based question. Most question in Salesforce will be scenario based questions. And that's why I put a lot of emphasis for a lot of people that your path is pretty straightforward. So again, kind of a repetitive thing. But once we complete this session, your second milestone is to get the certification. So once you complete it, practice it, spend like a week or two more, whatever you need, or more time. Make sure you go through all of these without worrying about the exam. Just make sure you practice everything, you have understanding of all the items. You can play around a little bit, add some records, delete records. You can play around as much as you can. And then once you are comfortable, now you are ready to give your certification, then you change your mindset, and now you are in a mindset where you just need to pass the exam. So in that way, you have that mindset where if you have done some exams like TOEFL or ICAT or SAT exams or things of that sort, where you have a limited time, limited questions, so you need to practice those questions a lot, or similar type of questions. You need to train your brain to basically work in a very short period of time and quickly answer. Some of you, if you are coming directly from the school, then it's okay. Your brain is still working in the same with the same speed. But if you have a break, you haven't given any exam for some time, maybe a couple of years, then you just need to kind of get into the practice, get in the habit of quickly thinking, because usually you have 90 minutes and 60 questions. So you have literally less than a minute and a half for each question. So not only you have to read the question, but all the four choices, and then select the right choice under a minute and a half. So based on that, what the um, best way to pass the exam is to actually solve the question. Not necessarily you need to know each and everything of the Salesforce, but as many questions as you can solve. So anywhere from 100 question to 500 question or more, if you can get access. And I can share some of the practice questions that I have. In the last session, I did share some of the very basic ones. They might be very, very basic, but I can share some of the second level or third level questions where you can see that. And some of those questions you need to basically go through it few times and almost like memorize it. Because when you're working in Salesforce, you don't need to memorize anything, because you can see everything on in front of you. So right now, for example, if we want to see the different options for sharing rules, we can just go there and we can see that, okay, these are the three options: private, public, read only, public, read write. But when you're sitting in the exam, they gave you three options, four options. One of them might be correct, others might be incorrect. So you just basically need to memorize those options, right? So it's not necessarily you need to know how it works, because you know how it works. And if you go to that particular area, you know how it works and you can do that, but you might not really memorize it. For the exam purposes, you might need to make sure that you almost have that kind of a memorization done in order to pass the exam. So for the second milestone, I would say that you guys can go ahead, and once you complete this, once you close this chapter of understanding and getting the really good idea, once you're ready to give your exam, again, you can give 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it takes. Because once you do a couple of test questions, then you can understand how long would it take. So if it takes 3 weeks, 4 weeks, based on that, every day you can start increasing your number of questions and take it from there. All right, so that was a little bit about the thing. Same thing, the next topic is data management. Data management is also critical. Why? So let's get into a little bit background of data management, what it is, why do you need it, what is the importance in Salesforce, how much do you normally use it, especially as an admin or even a developer, why data management is so critical. So let's think about, you are basically working for a pharmaceutical company, and they have 100,000 customers, and they asked to build a new Salesforce platform. They have their legacy system, and you have a team of Salesforce consultants. You build the system in next 6 months. It's all set, ready to go. Usually the steps is like you go for requirement sessions, then you have the system design, then you start your implementation. After implementation, you go for you continuously giving the demos for different section and different sprints. After, when everything is ready, you go for a one big deployment if that is the case, or you can do continuous deployments as well. So whatever is the case, let's say at the end of the day your system is ready, you give the system to UAT testing, which means that the users who will be using it, they now start doing the testing, and you basically guide them how the system is going to work. So you provide them a very high level training, and you said, okay, this is how it works. Now let's go ahead and start testing it. So whatever they need to do on their day-to-day basis, they start their UAT testing. Everything looks good. You got a green signal. You go ahead and deploy the system in the production. So now the system is in the production and now it's ready to rock and roll. Now we forget about something that they already have, that 100,000 records from legacy system. The system is ready, but where are the previous records, those 100,000 records? So we need to move those 100,000 records from the previous system into the new system. So what you do, you will export all the data from the previous system. Then you have your CSV files, or if it is something else, then you convert them into CSV files. Then you need to massage your CSV files. What does it mean by massaging CSV files? Meaning that you can do a little bit preemptive data cleansing, meaning that you can start looking into your data. There are different tools also available that can do a data cleansing or data cleaning or data purification, whatever you want to call it, where they can look into their data. If there are some, some garbage values, clean it up. If there are some records which are missing the values, they highlight it, and then the right people can able to update those records, things of that sort. So you clean the data, then you make sure that you understand what are your different objects that you need to plug in. So let's say when you export the data in your new system, you have 3 new objects. So you basically take the data and divide them into 3 different CSV files, for one for each object. Okay, so far so good. So we have one file for each object. Each object, let's say the first object, we have 10 fields. So you make sure that whatever the fields we have defined in Salesforce, whatever their names are, we have those fields also either similar name, or we understand what is the mapping of the name from the CSV file to the Salesforce. So once we have that ready, now we are ready to import the data. And I'll show you today that how you can import the data from those CSV files into the Salesforce, and then boom, all your historical data is in there. You're ready to go, and then you can start adding new records from that point onwards. In data management, that's one thing where you can adding the data in bulk. Again, as I said, when we said adding data, it's not like we are adding 5, 10, 15 records. We are talking about hundreds and thousands of records. So there are 2 tools which are available for data management. The first tool, which is called Data Import Wizard, which is like an embedded tool, and it is also web-based, meaning that you don't need to install anything for that. That is like an embedded tool. It's a pretty straightforward, easy tool to use. The other tool, but it has some limitations. So first of all, the biggest limitation is it can only import 50,000 records. So if you're using less than 50,000, you can easily able to use that. But then there is also some other caveat, that the mapping that I talked about. So for example, in your CSV file, you have different names, and in your other file, you need to do manual mapping. Or if you have many fields, like 50 fields, then the mapping part is very manual. It's not automated. So it's just a lot of hazard and a lot of extra manual work. So for that purpose, there is a more advanced tool called Data Loader. So Data Loader is a classic example of a client-based solution. So this is something you need to install it, and I'll go through how to install this one. And we will actually start with the Data Loader. So we'll go with the Data Loader first. We go through everything, and then Data Import Wizard will be a piece of cake compared to Data Loader. So in the Data Loader, some other things that you might, okay, so what I said is basically this is just one bulk import. After that, on a day-to-day basis, what you need to do, maybe sometime you need to delete bulk records, right? So let's say there are records which are 10 years old, you are not using it anymore, you take the backup, and now you need to remove those, let's say 10,000 records, which are probably you don't need it on a day-to-day basis, because again, as I said, in Salesforce, you are using the cloud, but again, you're paying for the space. So let's say if your system is on Salesforce for past 10 years, you have a lot of records, a lot of data, probably you might be almost filling up your space, right? So once you're filling up your space, there are 2 options: either buy more space, pay more money, right, on a yearly basis, or maybe remove the records that you don't need it on all the time, but make sure to basically keep a good backup of those records. And then you can remove those records, make some space, and then you have again, you have more space to work with. Like for example, your iCloud. So your iCloud, let's say I pay $99 and I get what, 50 G. So once my 50 G is up, which is actually up, now they're saying that, okay, either you can buy another 200 Gs for $299, or I can go into my iCloud and maybe download all the files and just empty it up and say, okay, I downloaded and put it on my my Google Drive, and then okay, emptied up, and then good to go. So most of the times companies go with a second option because they don't want to continuously pay for extra space because it's very expensive. It's not cheap. So what they do is they back it up. So back it up meaning you can actually back up all the data, download all the data, secure it to your cloud or whatever backup options you're using, and then you can go ahead and delete some records so that you can have more space. So that's one. Another thing is sometimes, let's say you have added a lot of records and then something changes, maybe some, like if we are talking about properties, let's say some border for a certain area zip code has changed, and lot of houses actually now become a different zip code compared to what we have the data 10 years back, right? Or something like that, just making it up, right? So if the data is changing and it is in a bulk quantity, again, if there are like 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 records, no problem, you can go into the record and change it. But if the change is such that you have like a lot of records and you don't want to go manually one by one, then you can also update the existing records. So for example, if you want to update like 10 records, 20 records, 50 records, 50,000 records, you can also update both number of records with a single upload or single click. Again, you can have all the new values and you can change that. So with a single upload, with a single click, you can do that. So very nice feature. And then there is another option, which is I can show you later on. And then you can also use the same data loader to export all the data as well. Okay, so a lot of cool features. We'll see how those work. But before I go into there, I can show you a couple of differences between these two. So okay, so these are a couple of differences, and you will get that as well. Sometimes they come in an exam question, or sometimes they could be your interview question. So good to know. So data import wizard, which is a web-based, you don't need to import everything. You don't need to download anything, stuff like that. First limitation is only less than 50,000 records. Second is it's a browser-based, not a limitation. It's just a characteristics. Third one, selective objects only, meaning that not all the objects are there. So these are some of the objects which are there. Some of the objects are missing. Then you have no detail log, meaning that if something is failing, if there is some error message, you don't get the detail log. You can just say, okay, the upload has failed. That's it. It doesn't give you any detail logs. So the other one, which is data loader, will give you some more detail log. Workflow rules can be activated. So this is a good feature. So this is actually one positive feature for data import. So you can actually turn on the workflow rules from here. And again, we haven't gone through workflows, so don't worry about it. We'll get to it in our next session. Apex data loader, which is the second choice, which is pretty much you will be using more of the data loader than the import wizard. It's a desktop application. So you need to actually download a second application, connect it to the Salesforce, and then you can start using it. I'll show you how in a second. Greater than 50,000 records, meaning not just greater, but anywhere from 1 to any number of records, 50,000 and above as well. This one is 1 to 50,000. This one is 1 to any number of records. I think is a couple of 100,000 records. It can easily take it, because again, there's some limitations for CSV file as well. So it's not like unlimited, because your CSV file is also limited. So whatever that is, I think it will work fine. All standard and custom objects. So there's no limitation, no pick and choose for what objects are supported, what not. Detailed logs are also available. Scheduling and mapping options are also available. So not only you can import the data, export the data on a particular, like right now, or you can even schedule. So let's say on Wednesday morning, you can set up everything and you said, okay, on a Friday after 6 p.m., I will schedule it to run. Then you can also do that. So you can do some scheduling as well on top of it. So these are a couple of characteristics. Now quickly jump into how you can download the data loader. So in order to do that, let's go back to our sharing rules, and here, back to our setup, and we go for data loader. Okay, go to data loader. Okay, so first of all, there are a couple of steps. I hope you guys can able to follow it. Again, there are a few basic things engage, so I cannot show for both of the operating systems. I'm using a Mac, so I'm just going to show you the Mac operations, but it's exactly same thing for Windows. Okay. So there are two things that you need to do in order to basically work with this. Is the first one is we need to first of all there is a Java based file called Zulu JDK, which is basically required to run it, and it's a DMG file. So first of all, we need to install that, and then we'll install data loader, and then we can use the same credentials for Salesforce admin, and then we can connect it to that. So these are three steps which will happen. Now here it is giving you steps, and then we will follow from here as well. So let's say if we are, I'm using Mac. So if let's say you are using Mac as well, so download data loader for Mac and Mac installation instructions. So first you need to not to go to data loader, but first you can go to Mac installation instructions. So click on that. It will open up a new page for us. And here it will give you all the instructions that you need to follow. So just follow step by step and you should be good to go. So the first thing is install Zulu OpenGDK version 11 for Mac OS using .dmg file. Okay, so there's a link provided. Let's open this link on a new tab. And then just keep in mind, you can do the version 11 or maybe the latest version and DMG file. So we come over here. So here are the download, the JDK files. So here it provided us that we can do version 11. I mean, I have installed the latest one and that's where fine too, but it doesn't matter. You can install whichever works better. So let's say if we go to version 11 is right here. And then here you need to, so, okay, so let's say if we go to the 11 version, you can even install the latest one. I did the latest one, that works fine too. So it doesn't matter, probably when they send the instruction, that was the latest available. So I would say just go ahead and install the latest one. So here you need to understand that, okay, what system do you have? So this is for Linux system. Again, obviously, I'm sure you guys are not using Linux. If you are, then it's fine. This is also Linux. This is for Windows. So if you're using Windows, then this is your stop, right? So here you can basically, for Windows, they ask you to download .zip file. But for Mac OS, they said to download what? They said to download .dmg file. So that is something you need to remember. So first of all, version here, Mac OS or Windows, and then 64-bit, and then here DMG file. So basically you come over here, just download that, store it somewhere, wherever you want. I can just do it on my download folder. Uh, just download it. So that's the first step of 2 downloads. So we are right now downloading my internet connection is playing up, but yeah, give it like a minute or two more. It says 4 minutes, but it usually goes faster than 4 minutes. Let me see if I have the previous one already available so I can load that. Almost there. Okay, it's downloaded. You can just double click and start stalling. Just follow the steps. Okay, so this part is done. Okay, so this part is done. Okay, so basically, if we come back here, this first part is done. We're able to install using this DMG file. If you go back to the Windows, I think that's a zip file. Okay, so just keep in mind whatever system you are following. If you're doing Mac, then just follow this process. If you're doing Windows, it's a separate set of instructions. From setup, download the data loader installation file. Okay, so we'll go back to our download. So here we step back, we'll come back over here. And if you remember, there was a second option for download the data loader for Mac. So let's click on that and basically download it, download Mac. And just download this on your computer. Okay, it's done. Zip file, and then there are further instructions as well. So again, we can go back to the instructions. It's just basically you need to follow the instructions. I'm just showing it because in the past there are a lot of questions. So I'm just kind of walking through. Some of you guys might be thinking this is uh, too discrete, but some people might have issues. So I'm just trying to follow the steps. Right click on the zip file, extract, select extract all. In the data loader, double click on the installer.command file, right? Installer.command file. So we'll check that out. Installer.command file. So just run it out. Okay, so in some cases you might you might need to allow this, and again, this is just your internal computer settings, so you can allow those from system preferences, security and privacy, and then here, if you see that option, allow apps download from open anyways, open, and then it will start downloading. Okay. So, so this is some extra step that you have to do. After that, if you once you allow that, that will allow you to install it. So once you complete all that process, so here, just follow this process from here. Which folder should it use? Default one. So by default, meaning users Ali Khurram, which is fine. I'm gonna say yes. Do you want to create an icon? Yes. Let's go ahead and create an icon. Do you want to create a link to launch the data loader from your application? Sure. And then it will just do your installation part. Okay, and I think it's completed. Once it's completed, I can go to my desktop and you see that this icon will appear. So this is called Data Loader 50.0. I had a previous version also available. That's why you see that 48, but this one is the one that we just installed together. So 50.0.0 is the latest one. So this is how, and now you need to access that. So now going to the next step, you completed the Java download, then you download the actual data loader. And now we need to connect it with the Salesforce. So let's go to the next step. Once you click that, these all come in the background, so don't worry about it. That's fine. And this is your data loader view. So this is like almost like like an external application, which is we need to connect it with the Salesforce. So if you click on anywhere like insert, then it will open up the login credentials for you. So you can keep it on OAuth, keep it on production, just say login. And in the login portion, it will ask you your username and password. So here you need the username and password for your admin account. So I'm just going to provide my admin account credentials. And say login. It will ask you, data loader partner is asking to access your basic information, all that stuff. We can say yes. And then let's see, go to the next. Okay, so here you go. So you are actually logged in into your data loader. So far, now we need to actually start playing around with that. And then if you want to make sure that this is the right one, just check out a couple of custom objects. So we had a custom object name, Unboxx property, Unboxx offer, Unboxx object test, student, subject. Yeah, so this looks right, because see here, this we connected with our Salesforce. So just to keep in mind that to first verify that this is connected correctly with your correct Salesforce instance. So it looks like good. I have all my objects available. So let me know if you guys have any question about installation part of the data loader. Of course, once you go ahead and practice it, you may have few things, but I mean, it's basically just like installation any other software. It has not much to do with Salesforce, just a basic IT installation guidelines you'd follow. I just still follow the step by step so that you can get one idea. Then again, if you stuck someplace, then try to resolve it on your own, because I'm not a IT tech. Is usually is just an installation part. You should know how to do that. If not, you have Mr. Google to help you out. But it's just a process how to download external utility called data loader. And now from this point onward, this is where we actually connecting with the Salesforce, and then now we are actually learning how to do the actual thing. But this part is just for the installation purposes. So any question before we go for a quick break? Okay, if not, then let's take a quick 10 minutes break. Right now is 10:31 Eastern. We'll get back at 10:41, and then we can continue with actual use of the data loader. So we'll see you guys in 10 minutes. The session. Okay, so far we went through how we can actually download the data loader. And now we are in the next step where we need to do a couple of operations. So for example, let's go back to our main. Let me just close all these windows. Okay, so let's getting back to our Lightning experience, and let's get back to our Unboxx properties. So Unboxx properties, right now, I'm sitting on 6 records, okay? And again, if I want to see some details of the records, I've also created a custom view. Okay, so this is what we have right now in the system. Again, when you're working in a real environment, you will have a lot more than these. So just imagine if you have like a couple of hundreds or maybe a couple of hundreds and thousands of records you're sitting on. So there are different ways you can filter the data and whatnot. But let's say you want to understand how this data loader works, and you want to basically add some new records, delete some records, maybe export records, right? So these 3 main things, if you understand how to do that, that will be pretty much your data management. So we can start with, let's say we have these records, we want to export that. So first of all, let's look into the export functionality. So let's go back to our data loader. And we said we want to do what? So we have these. So let me give you a quick introduction to the data loader. So this is insert, meaning you want to insert new records. Okay, brand new records, insert. Update, meaning that you need to update an existing records. Okay, so let's say these 6 records that we have, I want to change, for example, like the price of the house, or maybe the phone number, or maybe the name of the owner, or something like that. I can I can update an existing record. Then there is something called upsert. So basically it's a combination of insert plus update is upsert. Let's say if you want to update couple of records and you also want to insert new records. So if you want to do in like one shot, you can just use upsert. In the same file, you can put some records for updating, some records for inserting, and you can do it. But again, in the beginning when you're practicing, don't worry about upsert. Just do the insert separately, update separately, delete separately, and export separately. That's basically it. Later on, when you understand it really, really well, then you can start doing upserting yourself. But it's basically just updating and adding new records together. And I'll show you it's pretty straightforward. But just to avoid the confusion in the beginning, just do separately add, separately update, separately delete, and separately export. And then once you practice few times, then you can able to upsert as well. And then we have export and export all. What is the difference? So export meaning it will export everything. What do you have? Export all meaning it will also export from your recycle bin. So let's say in the past 2 weeks, you might have deleted some records. They may be not appearing on your interface, but they are sitting in your recycle bin. So if you do export all, it will export from there. So not a big difference. Normally we just use export, but if you want to export something from your recycle bin also, you can use export also, not a big deal. So main tabs here are insert, update, delete, and export. These four are the main key ones. Upsert, you can use it if you want to add these two together, just want to do one step short, but usually because it's a fairly critical process, personally I don't recommend doing upsert a lot because it's just data is very critical. You want to make sure you check it few times, make sure, and even it doesn't take too long, so it's just an additional step. But I normally doesn't prefer upsert because I just want to make sure I do my addition, and then I can, if I need to basically do some updates, I do it independently and verify the data and make sure everything goes well. So let's start with export so we can see how you can export something. So we can click on export, and then here this is your first step where you need to select the object. So we can go to our object called Unboxx property, and then here you need to select where do you want to save your target file. So browse. I created a separate folder here called data management. I can say extract Sunday, save it, go to next. Okay, so here are all the fields. So you can choose what fields you want to export, or you can choose select all fields. So if I say select all fields are selected, clear all fields are cleared. I can selectively select as well. So let's say I want to export address, asking price, ID. I'll talk about ID, what it is in a bit. And then for example, max offer, name, phone, owner's name, property type, subtype. Okay, couple of things that you want to export. That is there. You can say finish. And then again, it will just give you a warning message. You have chosen to perform an export. Click yes to begin. Do you want to proceed? Yes. And here say there was a 6 successful extraction and 0 errors. So again, remember last time I mentioned that this one provides you some more detailed logs. The other one does not. So if you see, it will actually providing you all the details. So this is the logs, and it is showing you all the 6 records, what have moved, what is done. So if there are some issues or something, it can give you a slightly better idea. Obviously, not 100%, but give you a better. So let's go ahead and check how that files which is exported. So go to desktop, data management, and extract Sunday. And here is our file opening up, and here you go. So extract Sunday is showing you the address, the asking price, the ID. I'll just talk about ID in a second. Max offer, wherever it is, property name, phone number, property owner, property subtype, property type, and then offer counts or something. So rest of them are pretty straightforward. We know what is address, we know what is asking price, we know offer, we know like all of these fields we created, so we know. The only thing which is now unique to you guys is ID. So what is ID? So before I show this ID over here, there is another way you can check the ID of any record, and each record has an ID. So this is the ID for this first record. So if you go to any record, for example, if I open it up, if you view on your top bar, see this number. This is basically the ID of this record. So anytime if you go to any record, it actually open up based on the ID. So QAOF, QAO. So this one. So this record we open FQAO. So this is basically property one, Sarah Khan, property one, Sarah Khan, right? So same ID. So this is called Salesforce record ID or ID, okay? And this is very critical. Guess why? This is the unique ID of your record in the database, not just this database, but the big database Salesforce have. So this is like a unique record because at the end of the day, all of your data is actually dumping into the big database, right? And over there, everything needs to be unique. So that's why you see this big number, 16-digit number, which is unique number to your particular record. So this record ID is used explicitly when you need to either update a record. So when you, let's say you need to update a record, how you tell Salesforce that which record to update. Okay, so you can say, let's say if I say name, so name can other name with the same name is possible, like Khurram Ali, a lot of people have the same names. Lot of things, I mean, you can say, okay, can I do with a date of birth? Maybe your data doesn't have date of birth. How do you know which record that I need to update? Is by using this ID. So this ID is unique to this record. Anytime you mention I want to do update with this ID, and you provide this ID, Salesforce can go to that particular ID, particular record, and do whatever you want to do. So either if you need to update, you need this ID, or if you need to delete a record, you need this ID. So this ID you need to know before you want to do either update or delete. Okay, so now coming back to actual usage of data loader. So let's say you are starting a project and you want to load a lot of data. At that point in time, because the data is not available in Salesforce, when you insert something, obviously the data is not in Salesforce, so there is no ID available. Okay, so you don't need to worry about it. You can just go ahead and put everything in your CSV file, upload the data. When the records will be created, now they will have the Salesforce ID associated with them. Okay, that's why you don't need, when you're inserting a new record, you don't need the ID. Now if you need to update a record, now the record is already existing, you need the ID. And if you want to delete a record, you also need the ID. Let's say you want to delete like 50 records. You don't want to go to each record, open up and copy that. Why would you do that, right? So a simple step which I just show you is you can just go ahead and export all the records. And when you export the records will, and just select the ID as well in the fields, and then you can able to get all the IDs in the CSV file automatically. Within the CSV file, then you can do some filtration, figure out what records do you need to update or delete, and then now you have the ID. So now you can use this file in order to delete, or if you want to do any updates. So let's go ahead and try updating a new record in the same. So first let's try to add a new record. Okay, so if I want to add a new record, let me rename this file. Add new record. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'll just remove all the records, just keep the first one here. This is fine. Asking price. So ID, as I said, when you're adding a new record, you don't have ID, so I'll just remove this field. Maximum offer, if you remember, maximum offer comes from a formula, so we don't need it. We don't need to provide as an input. Property name, this is an auto number directly generated by Salesforce, so we don't need to provide that when we're adding a new record. Okay, so phone number, yes. Owner, property owner name, yes. Property type, okay. Subtype, that's fine. and total counts also is in automatic formula, so which is calculating. So this record is already existing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it insert new record Sunday. I'm just going to name the owner name, insert new record Sunday, so we can able to differentiate. And I'm going to give it 1 million in terms of price. Okay, so I just create this file, and same way you can add as many records as you want. So these are the new records, brand new records, never available in Salesforce. You know, so you are adding it for the very first time. Again, we are adding one record, but you know, or you can add a couple of records if you want. Let's say if I want to add 3 records, and I can call this Sunday 2, Sunday 3. Okay, so these 3 records I want to add. Save the file and insert. First of all, select the object where you want to insert, select the file, add new record. Okay, go to the next step. So see, first of all, it will give you an idea that it will read the records and it will tell you how many records. So 3 records, yep, sounds good. Let's go ahead to the next one. Okay, so this step is called mapping. So right now, what we need to do, remember I explained you from your CSV file, there is a list of fields. And then in Salesforce, you have a list of fields like property number and own. So if you have use exported file, like what I did, in my case, the field are same as Salesforce, but not necessarily all the time. Let's say your sales team goes into an online conference or any conference where they collected a lot of new leads. So maybe their field names might be different. They might give just an address, or asking price is just a cost of the house or something like different ones. So you just need to do the mapping. So what it means is you can do mapping like this. For example, choose, so don't worry about choose existing mapping, create or edit mapping. So if I click on that, I can choose that, okay, address is what field is the address field. So again, here is the same thing because we are choosing the same. So I can just pick it up here. But for example, if it is not the same, still you need to know what fields is matching with Salesforce. So you can do it manually. Asking price, asking price. Okay. So in our case, basically we have these fields already picked up from there. So instead of me mapping this, because if you export the file, have the fields available, you can say auto match fields to column, because I already use the same field. So if I click on that, all these fields are automatically matched. Okay, everybody good? So either you can do it manually, like if for example, these fields you do not export it. So usually the best practice is you export the file, remove everything. So now the field are there, and then you give this file to your team members and say, okay, now upload all the records here because the field names are matching with Salesforce, so I don't need to worry about mapping. And then they can they can populate the sheet, and then you can bring that up. Once you have that, you can do auto match, and then you can also save this mapping for future. So I can save this mapping. I say property object mapping. So either this I can do next time, or if I'm using the default anyways, I can click the auto generate button, whatever is fine. You can do that, go ahead and do that. The second option, remember there is another one. This one was edit or create a map. Here, choose an existing map. So here, if if I'm doing it next time, I can choose the existing map, and then I can select the file that existed, the map, and then I can choose that. But again, as I gave you another example, the easiest way, export it, keep the header file in there, and then add everything, and then you can use it auto mapping. Go ahead to the next step, and here, where do you want to save the error files? So we can choose create a separate folder here, and then finish. You have chosen to insert new records, click yes to begin. Okay. So here it will give you some sort of identification. The operation has fully completed. There are 3 successful insert and 0 errors. So if you have errors, you can click on the view errors and it can give you a little bit detail. So that can be helpful. And if it is successful, you can also see the successful, and it will give you an idea that what records are inserted. So let's go ahead and check if these records are actually inserted. So I come, so here you go. So insert record Sunday, Sunday 2, Sunday 3. So without actually manually doing it, now think about this one has like an easy one, just like 5, 8 fields. But if you have like 30 fields or 20 fields, and if you want to add like 100 records, 200 records, 500 records, 5,000 records, how easy is that step? You just need to make sure your data is really good. Try to import like 2 or 3 records upfront just to test it out. Once everything looks good, your mapping looks good, then you can use the actual file and make sure everything goes smooth. Do a quick test, make sure everything looks appropriate, and then that's pretty much it. That's how you can import hundreds and thousands of records with a single 5-minute process. Any questions so far? Okay, so if no question, then let's go ahead and do some updates and then delete. So let's start with the which one we can do first. Let's start with delete first. Okay, so I saved one of them, I believe. Extract Sunday. So in Extract Sunday, okay, so here I have so remember when I mentioned for extract or for delete or for update, you need the IDs, right? So let's go ahead and see if we want to delete one record. And then let's say I already exported that record. I have this record called Sunday Wizard. Let's check this out if this record is still there. Sunday Wizard is here. This is record number 9, property 9. This is property 9. Okay, good. I can remove everything else. So let's say I just want to delete this record. And again, you can delete multiple records, but just for testing, I want to delete it. The main thing in this operation, the most important thing is the ID. If you don't have ID, if it is not the right ID, then this process will not work. So I just make sure ID is there. Very good. I save this one, extract Sunday. And then come over here, delete, property, extract Sunday. Extract Sunday. Okay, same thing, choose the file, go to the next step. One record, which is correct. Same thing, create or edit a mapping, auto match. So here you see it's not even asking to do all the mapping. All it is asking, just match me the ID. So the ID is the ID or auto match, because again, I exported the file. So that's all I need to do. Okay, next, and finish. Go ahead. Okay, 1 successful and 0 deletes. So we can go back and see the Sunday Wizard should be deleted now. Sunday Wizard was here, property 9. Let's refresh. See, it's gone. Okay, no more. Sunday Wizard is gone. So this record is deleted. Same way, if you want to delete many records, 10, 15, 20, 100, 200 in one shot, you can just load all the IDs, export the IDs, filter the IDs, identify the records. You can even just have the file with the IDs. You don't need all the other fields, and then just basically put them through delete, test it out. It should be good. All right, so the next one is we can do one more for update. And again, for update also same thing. So this one is already deleted. So this one is useless. Now let's see if I have another one. Extract two. Oh, this has too many. Okay, so here, okay, let's try something. Let's say property one, and I can copy this ID. And let's remove everything. And all I want to do is I just want to change the price from 600,000 for record one to $1 million. So this is what asking price. Okay, that's all. Put the ID, put the field that I need to change, and extract Sunday. Or I can call this update. Okay, let's go ahead and try this out. So update. Okay, fields are matching. ID is the most important thing. Rest of them are also mapping. That's fine. Okay, one success, zero error. So far, so good. And this is the records. Let's just refresh here. Okay, here you go. From 600,000 to $1 million in like less than 2 minutes. And again, it's not just one record. If it could be like 100 records, that also pretty much, if whatever time it takes to clean up your file and everything might take, but after that is just uploading and updating process doesn't take too long. So this is how your whole data management works. Just a quick recap. You can insert is as good as the adding new records. When you add new records, obviously there is no Salesforce ID available, so you don't need it because it's a fresh insert. So fresh insert or fresh add. Update, you need the ID. So the easiest way to do that, either if it is like one or two records, you can even delete it from there, but the ideal way when you're working is basically export the records, then filter them out, select the records that need to be updated, put the only the values that needs to be updated. You don't need to have all the information like you did in my case. I just want to update one field, so I have ID and that field which needs to be updated. Everything remains the same. It's not like everything will be overwritten. It's just the field which you are providing will be overwritten. That's it. And then if you need to upsert, meaning if you want to do these things two together, you can do that. Delete, same thing. You just need the ID and that's it. You can get the IDs, export them or note them out, whatever, and you can put IDs. You can get it. Export, I showed you. Export all is the same thing. So any question from data loader, again, just to keep in mind, data loader is very critical. You need to do a lot of practice. Make sure you can create some good number of records, 10, 15, 20, insert it, delete it, add it. Make sure you understand where to get the ID, how to get the ID. Make sure you are very comfortable installing it. Make sure you are comfortable connecting it, things of that sort. But again, in essence of it, it's pretty straightforward. If you know the sequence properly, practice it few times, then it's no brainer. So any question before we move to the data export wizard?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So going back to the initial export, so I basically followed all these steps, but it created a document on my desktop, but when I open the document, there's no data inside. It's like empty.
So is it a CSV file or do you have Microsoft Excel on your computer?
I don't have a Microsoft Excel now. I'm using a Mac.
Oh, can't do anything.
Okay, that's the reason. Okay.
Yeah, so you always have to think outside the box. So if you don't have Excel, so same thing, something else had happened on a lot of time when you try to, like in your case, you're lucky you don't have any error message. Because a lot of students actually stuck when they're installing it. Again, in your system, you can go there and make sure how you install files. So that time it might be have issues. So that's the problem or things of that sort. So sometimes this is not related directly with Salesforce, but other things that goes along with that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else, guys? But good question. maybe somebody else might have the similar issue in future. Cool. All right. If nothing else, then move to the next section of it, which is called. And again, now if you understood how the data loader works, then the data wizard should be kind of a straightforward. So let me hide this. Okay. So now go to what I'm trying to do. Okay. So load up the data import wizard. Okay, so this is the data import wizard. So again, as you see that for this one, you don't need to install anything, nothing. It's available like everything else. So you just go to your setup, you put the wizard, the data import wizard comes up, click on that, and then this data import wizard launches. So if you're doing this, you don't need to worry about download. You don't need to do anything. In some cases, this could be helpful as well. So it's not necessarily that you always have to use data loader. In some cases, this can be also quick way of doing it. So we'll see, how we can use this one. So go ahead and launch the wizard. Wizard is launched, and before that, just make sure that we have a file that we need to. Again, we can add a new record. So I believe add a new record was here. So this record is added. So, but what we can do is. So instead of this, I can say add new record via wizard, and then rest of them are same. So there's no ID, nothing. So it's good. It's just have the same values. I don't care. I'm just going to change the name. So the name of the record is wizard, and we can use this add new record, and that should good to go. Save it. All right. So here, this is the first step. Choose the data, edit the mapping, and start import. Okay. So we are on the first step. Choose the data. So we have a custom object, click on standard or custom object, properties, good to go. So here also there are 3 options instead of 4 or 5 options over there. So either you can add a new record. So this is equivalent to equal to insert, like same thing, add a new record. Update an existing record, same thing as you find in the previous one. Add new and update existing, which is upsert. So add, update, upsert. These 3 are also available, but if you remember, we also had delete and also export all. So those 2 options are not available. So anytime if you need to delete or export, again, you know that you don't need to go directly to data loader, no options are available. But if you need to do something like add a new record, existing record, update, then you can even do it from here. This is upsert, but again, main 2 things are 2 options are here. So we want to add a new record, sure. We go here. So here are a couple of options. So the first option is match by. So what is it saying? That unique value in your data, for example, ID values or email values, help Salesforce determine whether to add a new record or update existing record. So again, if you're doing upsert, it might be more helpful if you want to define that either a name or something else which is matching. In our case, we don't need to worry about it. Which user field in your designated record owner. So if you want to change the record owner, right? So let's say I am admin, but I want to add records on behalf of Sarah. Then I can have the record owner field in my CSV file, and then I can select the field over here, external ID or name ID or whatever that is, and then I can use that from there. Or else it will be added under my name. So I am also obviously a user, so it will add it under my name. Okay, that's all. Here there's a last option, trigger workflow rules and process for new and updated records. So again, we haven't learned the workflow rules, but basically this is like an automated rules which will run when you create a new record. So it is asking that, do you want to run the workflow rules for the new updated records or no? So you can choose it if you want to run or not. So this part is good. That's all we need. So here we need to, the third step, we need to add the CSV file. So choose the file, add new record, comma separated. Next. Okay. So see, this mapping is like this. Here there is no option of automatically, even though all these fields are exported from Salesforce, but there is no automated option. So what I need to do is I need to click each of them. And then the first one is, this is called address. So I need to actually manually map it. So address, save it. Asking price, but I have to do it manually every time. So imagine if you have a lot of fields, then it's a very cumbersome process every time, and you cannot even save it. So this is just, that's why I don't like this option, because it just takes, and again, we have 5-6 fields here. But again, if you have a lot of fields, then it's a lot of headache. So owner name, subtype, and type. Okay, you do the mapping and then just go to the next 6 fields, all mapped, 0 fields unmapped, and start the import process. Okay. So record process 1, sometime if it is not cooperating, because I don't like him, so he don't like me. So it just give me error messages. In this case, I was lucky, no error message. Retry count, so it's completed. Okay, so let's go ahead and check in our database if that record is now added. Most probably is going to be the last record. Here you go. Insert new record wizard, and then rest of the fields were same. So I just added a new record using another tool called data import wizard. Same way that I added the record, you can also add, you can also update a record like last time how I did. Just make sure you have the Salesforce ID this time. Just put one field or multiple fields that you need to update, or you can have more fields that you don't need to update same value, but you can just provide the field ID, the field that needs to be updated, and just import the file, save it, and you're good to go. So this is how the second tool, which is called data import wizard, works. Again, there are some limitations which I explained you. So the data import wizard, again, the limitations are less than 50 records. This is browser based. There are some limitations with the number of objects that you can attend, no detail logs, workflow rules can be activated. So this is like a plus point. Here we have some plus point for data loader, that obviously it's a bulk import tool. You can have any number of records that can be imported, all objects compared, detail logs, scheduling, mapping, everything is available. So pretty much you have more detailed options available. And then a couple of steps that we kind of follow already are available here just to follow. So this will be also attached to our records. So any questions from data management? Okay, very quiet class today. Any questions before we move to the next topic? Okay, very good. Oh, there is one. Okay, let me see. All good. Okay. Okay, so no question. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's move to the next topic. I'll try not to finish the whole thing, maybe keep last 10, 15 minutes for any questions if you guys have. But this is like, so that topic is done. Data management is done. Now we are getting into another topic. Again, this is very, very useful. And again, I'll try to explain with this one with a couple of examples, because it's a slightly confusing, just to give you a heads up, but if you follow me properly, then hopefully it will make sense. So in order to explain that, let me just create an example. Okay, so let's say I have an object called property. And I have fields, let's say name, price, phone, and then okay, simple example. Okay, I have um, I have an object, Unboxx property. I have fields called name, price, phone, and then there are some distinguished fields called number of beds and number of offices. So number of beds is obviously related to residential properties, okay? And number of offices are related to commercial properties, okay? Now we have, um, these are two fields, but let's say for example, for residential, I have like 10 other fields. And for commercial, I have another 10 separate fields, right? So for example, for commercial, you can have different type of fields that you normally add, maybe like, the ceiling height or number of offices or um, number of rooms, number of, years of lease, um, whatever that, more related to pertain to commercial properties, right? um, for residential, you can have KPIs like number of beds, number of garage, number of bathrooms, number of square footage. I mean, number of square footage can be common in both, but there are more distinguished um, fields which are related to residential. Let's say 10 fields are related to residential and 10 fields are related to commercial. So I'm just gonna add something here, um, just to give you an illusion of it. So let's say these are all residential, and these are all commercial. Okay, and this one name is probably, we can say, common. Okay, and price is obviously common, and phone is obviously common. Okay, so so just think about this object is property. There are fields which are combination of three main items. One is which is common between the two. One is which is related to residential, and then all of these residential, and then one is related to commercial. Okay, so now let's say if I am a salesperson, okay, and I'm trying to input a new property that we have. So I come over here, I put the name, I put the phone number, I put this one. Okay, now how confusing is that I need to check, okay, number of beds, okay, this is related to me if I'm working in residential. This is for me, this is for me, is this for me? No, no. So it's going to be very confusing, right? So what we want is, if we are working on a residential properties, so something like this will happen, is it will just show you common and residential. So it will only show you these fields. Okay, so I don't need to worry about it. I can just go ahead and add all these fields. When I'm trying to input commercial property, then I can basically see something like this, and I can add all my fields values for the commercial properties. Okay, so I need kind of, so this is, we are calling it layout, right? I need a proper layout, two layouts, one for commercial and one for residential, and some sort of choosing mechanism where I can, like how I'm toggling over here. So some sort of toggle where I can toggle between, when I need to input a residential property, I can see only the fields which are related to residential. And when I need to basically input the commercial property, I can select the commercial and it can show me only the fields of commercial. However, at the back end, when you're adding any record, so let's say if I add a new record here, and if it is, for example, let's say we can add one record for commercial and one for residential. So let's say we add a record for commercial here, residential here, and then we can add a second record for commercial. Okay. Okay. So have you noticed this record one? This is our record one, and this is our record two. each record actually contain all the fields. It's just the rest of them which are not related are empty. In the second record, also it contain all the fields. It's just the ones which are not related are empty. So at the back end, each record has everything. It's not we are changing anything. It's just we want a quick way of kind of dividing our object into like two pieces, so that if we are working on the piece one, we can only see the fields which are related to piece one. And then if we are working with the piece two, then we can have a piece two. Now, this is just an example. Let's say instead of residential, commercial, you have one more option. Can we do that? Sure. We can add one more, like here, private, and let's say start adding fields here. And then we can have another option here, right? So same here. So same thing. Now instead of two options, I have three options. So these options that I'm creating every time without actually changing the object, just kind of dividing the different fields into different of these options, this is called record type. So in the first example, I have two record types. So what were those record types? One was residential and the other was commercial. Okay. So, I mean, just keep your thoughts right now. There's still a couple of steps before you really understand what it is. But basically, this options that we are giving you, these are called record types. So record types are basically combination of profiles and page layouts. Okay, now let me explain you what does it mean. Okay, so I said page layout. So that you probably understood that when we are saying that we can create a new page layout and we can add, let's say I want to create a commercial page layout. I can add common fields and commercial fields, and here you go. So I have these set of fields. I can call this layout one. Okay, I can maybe remove these and say this is your layout one. Okay, and if I want the layout two, I can create another layout from my page layouts and I can add residential and common, and this is my layout two. Okay, so basically you can have first page layout, which is called residential, and I have another page layout called commercial. It's the same object. I can create multiple page layouts. Okay, keep in mind and don't worry about it. Once we do it, it will be more clear if it is not right now, but it's basically okay. So first page layout is residential and here is commercial. Okay, so this commercial, this residential, and then let's say what is my profile. Let's say my profile is marketing profile. Okay, and I can add my marketing profile here. So that's one example. Okay, so marketing profile. So let's say if I have marketing profile, when I go to this particular object trying to add the record, it will give me two options, residential, commercial. I can pick whatever I want, and then it will show me only the fields related to the object, related to the page layout, and then I can add it, create a record. Next time I go back again, I'll see both options. I can select it and I can do that. So that's one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is we can also create this one. So, okay, I'm doing marketing profile. The other one is for sales profile. So for example, in marketing, Ali is working, and in the sales, Sarah is working. So what will happen is Ali will only see this page layout. He will not get any option of residential, commercial. He will only see this option of page layout where he can add the fields related to the residential. And he don't even know. He can just see the residential information and he can add it over there. When Sarah logs in, she can only see common and commercial, and she's good to go, right? So she will only see this one. So there are two ways you can use that. Either you can use it via same person. If they want to see both the options, they can able to choose, they can choose the same profile and then assign it, and they can able to see both of the options. If you just want one profile, the people who are associated one profile just to see one option, just assign them one page layout. If you assign them both of them for both profiles, then they can able to see both. Okay, so before I go and show you the practical example, does it make sense? I mean, I can obviously, once we do that, it will be more clear, but I know it's a little bit confusing concept, so I'm trying to go step by step. Okay, so let's try this out. So what all the things we need in order to execute that is so here we are saying that to entertain various service option for any for many other examples. So here I just give you one example. It could be something else, like you have all these options here, and then you have seen options like silver, gold, platinum. So same thing, same object, couple of fields. When you are working in when you're providing sales option, that are included. Second one is gold, it will have some other options, and the platinum is a third options. Again, you don't need to have explicit fields only dedicated to one page layout. Same field can be on multiple. That comes under common, or it can be common into two. So for example, one field can be common in platinum and gold, but not in silver. One field can be common across all three. One field can be only in gold. And so whatever combination you want. So you can have different combination from the same object, and you can choose whatever fields you want to show, so that you can make it easy for the user to input the data related to different record types. And record types are basically, as I just explained, is a combination of page layouts and profiles. So page layout, we will, in our example, we will create two page layouts. So first page layout will create residential. Second page layout will create commercial. And then you can assign the profile. In our case, we can assign the same profile, so that same person can able to choose between the two options. So for example, if you have something like silver, gold, platinum, so instead of two options, he can able to see three options. He can choose one of them, and then he can see the respective fields and start adding the information. So pretty straightforward, not as complicated as it sounds. So, but what we need to do in order to create record types is, first we need to make sure that we have page layouts. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the page layouts. Profiles, we already have it, and then we can create the record types. So let's start with the page layouts. So here we go. Go back to our setup, home, object manager. And then go to property, go to page layouts. And here we can start creating the page layout. So what we can do is we can create, we can go to the default one, and if you guys remember, we can save as a new page layout. So let's first save as a new page layout. We can call this residential. Okay, so first of all, we change the name, and now here we can choose the fields. So for example, here, let's say we want to keep property type, subtype, asking price, phone number. So for example, we want to remove some fields or add some fields, we can do that. But there is something distinguished here, which is called property type and subtype, and we already have the field. So you will see that we can differentiate between these two, and this will give some good options. So we will save that later on. So go ahead and save this one. Let's go back and create another one. Or basically, when you are in the residential, if you're working based on our example, then you can choose whatever fields you want. Here in our particular example, we have something called type and subtype. So we will use that. So that's an extra step. So that's I'm showing you. But if it is a normal case scenario, you can remove some of the fields from here and then just keep only the fields which are related to this particular page layout. So let's create another page layout, go back to the base page layout and create one more. Commercial, save it. Okay, very good. Now, so page layout part is done. So we said, okay, what was the first step? First step was page layout. Second is profile. So we already have profile. So we will use one of our marketing profiles for this one. The third step is now go ahead and create the um, um, record type. So in the same object, if you go all the way down, there's something called record types. So here you can start creating the record types. Okay. So the first record type, residential. Okay, and it is asking here, you want to allow this record type to available for everybody or specific users, right? So for example, marketing users and everybody. So in our case, we don't have that many choices anyway, so we'll keep it for everybody. But if you want to change, you can change it anywhere from here. So here it is saying the page layout. So we are creating the residential, so we need to attach the residential page layout. So what we can do is apply a different layout for each profile. And for example, here we have the marketing user. So instead of here, we have created two layouts. So we can call this residential. So we have created residential. I forgot to actually, I should have called this residential page layout so you can understand the difference between the record type, which is residential commercial also, and page layout. But just keep in mind, this is page layout. So I can choose a residential page layout for the profile I want to choose, or you can choose it for everybody as well, whatever is feasible. So here I choose the page layout for residential page layout for the profile that we will be testing it, which is our test user, and then save and new. Okay, what is the next record type? The next record type is commercial. Same thing, make it active. I think I forgot to activate the other one. Available for all of them for now. And here we can use the page layout. Commercial, and save it. Okay, so what we did is basically we create two record types. Okay, so let's go back and see what are the record types. We created two record types, and all we did right now is on each record type we select the page layouts that we have already created. Right now I just created the page layout also called residential commercial, and record type also called residential commercial. In your case, when you are creating the page layouts, you can call them residential page layout, commercial page layout, so you can able to distinguish them easily. So let's go to the residential first one. And if you click on that, you see there is an option for the pick list values. Okay, so here we can change the value. So property type. So first go to property type and edit it. And what are the selected values? So when we are in residential, I don't need to see anything for commercial. Okay, so I choose residential, save it. And then when in subtypes, I can again edit. And in residential, I don't want to see shop, I don't want to see office, I don't want to see warehouse, and then save it. Okay, so I set up the pick list value. So this was extra step that I want to see in addition to changing the fields that you have available. Same thing I can do with commercial. Go to commercial, edit the fields. So field type, obviously this time is commercial, save it. And subtype is I don't need house, I don't need condo, I don't need apartment. Okay, and these are the selected values. Save it. Okay, and then also need to make sure both are activated. So I believe, okay, both are active. Okay, very good. And then page layout is available. Yeah, it looks like everything is available. Now let's see if we can able to log in and test it out. Okay, so here you go. As soon as I click new record, remember previously it just opened up the single page layout. We able to add the records like here. So if I go to my my main property record. So here also, because we select all the profiles, right? But if we only selected the main profiles, it will only show us like if we go to the regular object, then you can see this regular page layout where you can add all the fields. So here we have defined that, okay, residential, commercial, whatever you want to pick, you can pick, and then it will only give you the options for residential. Okay, so here we keep the same fields, but we change the property type. So see, you don't even see the other option for commercial. And then here also, you don't see any option for commercial property. So we just filtered it out based on each of them. Same thing with commercial property. If I want to add a commercial property, same thing. You can change the fields. Here we kept the field on same, but here we just selected the commercial and then here, and that's pretty much it. Although in the previous one also you have a drop down, you can, but here we already removed all the options. So it is very, very limited to what you can do in based on the record type. So this is what you are seeing as a record type is basically how you can use the same object, but differentiating between the different fields that you can select to different record types. Instead of residential, commercial, you can have another different record types that you can create, but it's just keep in mind the same object. Same object, you are just picking and choosing different fields, making a different combination and giving something so that you have like a quick way of adding the record in the object with the reference of something specific. As I said, it could be, another example could be silver, gold, platinum options, you know, and you know, small, medium, large options, things of that sort. So that's how you can create this record types. And again, this is very, very important concept, because anytime that you are trying to create different objects, and within that different objects, you have different options, the way you can differentiate the data, that's where you need to start creating these concept called record types. So record types is also a very, very widely used option, and this is the utility, how you can use it in the real field. So hope you get it. Again, there are a couple of steps. I can just remind the steps one more time. First thing, you need to understand that you need to create page layouts, right? So you already identify the object. So in our case, the object was, if you go to the object manager, this was our object. So first we identify what object is there. So the property is our object. And in order to create page layouts, we can go to the page layout. You can use the base page layout and then save as, and then make changes in terms of fields. Whatever fields you need to select in that page layout, then you can choose that. Again, go ahead and create as many page layouts as you need. So this is how you, first step, you create the different page layouts. Second step, while you are on the same object, second step is you can go to the record types and you can start creating the record types. Record types is these options. So instead of commercial, residential, you can have something like silver, gold, platinum. And then you can also choose which profile can see that. You can choose just for the marketing profile. Like in your example, you can just choose a marketing profile. So in that way, you don't see that profile, you don't see these two options available in the admin. Like in my case, I choose everything. So you can just selectively choose the marketing profile. So this is the second step. You can create 2 or 3 record types that you need to, and you can assign the proper profiles, assign the pages, and then you're good to go. Now, if you go back to the user that we have done, it should have those options start available. And this is basically called record types. So any questions which are not clear about record types? Anything? Do we still have people on the call?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody has used this in the past, like record type or similar thing that could be relatable? Okay. All right. But that's good. I think we covered a good, okay, very good. So yeah, so the next step are, again, as I said, just go back and practice those. Let me see what is the next item, and should we go forward, or if we can take any other questions. So, okay, so business processes, I'll keep it for the next one. I can give a quick introduction to the business processes. Will not go into the detail of it for now. So the next stop is where we are So now what we have done so far, we have established and created and built our application. Within the application, we have different objects, we have different fields, all that good stuff. Second stop was we go in and we basically create the security model. So in the first one, we have the application, we have everything what we need. Second stop, we actually able to create different security options, align all the data, who can see what, who can see more, who can see less, who records are available to who, all that good stuff, right? So that was complete security model. So once we create the security model, once we understood who can see what, then we go to the next step and said, okay, now we have the security model. Now let's add the previous data. So let's say the organization that you're working for is in the market for last 20 years and they have been using some legacy softwares. So you will basically working in a team with IT. You can basically export all the records, convert them into CSV files, convert them from one file into different object-based files, and then massage all these files, clean the data, make sure the data is clean, make sure the data is not duplicate. You can use some off-the-shelf third-party tools available for deduplication, things of that sort. So you make sure now this is an opportunity. Like it's the same thing like when you move your house. So you have been living in a house for past 10 years, a lot of clutter. Just collect there. Once you move it, then you said, okay, you know what? While I'm moving, let's see what I need and what I don't need, and you can clean up a lot of stuff. You can either throw them, sell them, whatever, and just take whatever you really need to the next house. Or same thing with your shelf or something. So same thing here. We are moving from the data from the previous data to new data. Previous data could be being sitting there for a long time, just getting all sorts of data, a lot of duplication. So just to throw you the wording here, so duplication is very key aspect in any database. And again, it's not just pertain to Salesforce. It could be with SAP, Oracle, anything that you are working with the data, and you know that data is a new oil. And then actually I heard something even better yesterday, is data is the new water. Because oil is, you have a lot of alternatives, but water is basically water. Even any drinks or anything that you have, they're all basically water. So I really like this new line that data is the new water. So it's very, very necessary. You cannot really live without it, to be very honest. Without oil, yes, no worries. I have a Tesla or somebody has a Tesla, or you can put like on your roof, all these nice solar panels or whatnot. So things are changing. Oil may or may not be the same as it used to be, but water will be, till, I don't know if there's any alternate for that. So data is critical. So in the data, the biggest thing is when you store the data, then there is one concept called duplication. So what it means by duplication is, I can give you an example that I deal with on a very normal basis, because I work with a lot of nonprofits. So when you donate something to nonprofit, right? So for example, I donate today, and when I'm filling the form, I don't have account. I just I just go there, give $100, and then I also use my Gmail account. Next month or after a couple of months, I go there, I again put my name and everything, and instead of Gmail, I forgot what did I give last time. I give my Yahoo account. So on an average, every person have pretty much 3 to 5 email addresses, and sometimes they don't remember what they used last time. So now in the database, I have 2 records under the name of Khurram Ali, giving the donation on different occasions, but with different email addresses. And in most cases, you can choose something as email address as a unique field. So basically, your system is telling you have 2 donors, but in reality, you have only 1 donor. And then multiply that by, let's say, if you have 70,000 donors. So now you will be questioned that actually you have 70,000 donors in your system, but how many actual donors are there? How many unique donors are there? They are not duplicate. So this is called duplicate. And this is like a big problem, because it's not easy. It's not easy just to say, okay, email address, because different people use different email addresses. Also, there's a duplication process. If from the same house, even let's say my wife go and donate, and then my kids go and donate, so now everybody will become like a separate record or separate family, right? Now, how can we merge them together? So there are a lot of nice tools available in Salesforce, and some of them are paid. Some of them you can actually do some customization yourself and make it nicely. So these are like all real time problems. So when we are basically doing deduplication, it's basically there are different things which are available. Salesforce provides some deduplication rules. So you can put a rule and then you can later on combine and merge different records. So for example, you can create something like if the address is same, and if the, for example, if the address is same, location is same, last name is same or something, just add those guys, they might belong to the same family, right? So you can have family. If you have individual records, my name, my address, maybe some other, they have pick up like age or something else, or my phone number is same, then says, it looks like 3 different email addresses, but the name is same, address is same, or maybe I have 2 addresses same, one address different, maybe I moved it or I'm visiting somewhere, and said, you know what, this looks like the same person, let's merge them together. So there are different practical things which you will work on when you're actually working in the real-time environment. But coming back to business processes is basically when you have different processes, then you try to automate. And that's why Salesforce is there, because if everything you're doing manually, then why do we really need to spend so much money on Salesforce? So when we say different processes, meaning something that you are doing repetitive, right? So a couple of examples. Let's say every time you buy something from Amazon, you receive an automated email saying, thank you for your purchase, and it will list out the items that you have purchased, right? So that is a repetitive process. So in a day, if Amazon, if let's say 100,000 people do a shopping, 100,000 emails goes out, and every time they're just listing out the items that they have purchased. So this is like a very repetitive process, right? So traditionally, if we don't using Salesforce, if not using any other automated system, then guess what? Somebody's sitting in the back office, and any record comes, any purchase comes up, they might have template and they actually put the information in there manually and then send it out. So instead of that, in Salesforce or other similar platforms, you can make this automated. As soon as record comes in, boom, the email goes out automatically. You already set up the templates, and then you also connected the fields. The fields will populate based on each record. So the template is same, but every time it will check the information from what you have purchased from record 1, record 2, record 3, and it will exactly send you the list of items that you have purchased, and you get this email automatically. So they just need to set up this process one time, and they will just keep it running for the rest of the time, and then it will take care of it automatically. So one example. Another example is ticket assignment. So for example, if you have a sales team, or like a case management team of about 50 people, and when the call comes up, and you need to know, okay, how do I direct the call? Because in some cases you can have different tools you are using, but those tools are very I would say physical, meaning let's say they will check who is available, whose call is not busy, they can just direct to the person who is available. Now let's say you want to do it a little bit more advanced. So for example, you have people who are related to sports channels, you have people who are more expert in news, if you have people who are expert in troubleshooting. So based on the nature of the call, you want to distribute your automation or assignment rules. So or basically based on, let's say you have information like zip codes, so you want to say, okay, any zip code, go to this group, if any zip code, go to this group or this person. So all of these things can also be, ticket assignment can also done like automatically through business rules, and you can create different business rules, and basically you can assign them to different ways. Same thing with some of the discounts that we saw. Email templates, we'll talk about it. So basically, just in a high level, business processes are those where if something happens, you can take an automated action, and it will result in some sort of automated results. So result could be updating a field, so you can update a field, you can send out an email, or you can assign a task to somebody. So there are different things that you can do, and in Salesforce, the automation is like on a very, very, very detailed level. So I have worked in for a couple of different type of environments. So and in a real life scenario, think about, let's say if you are buying online cars, right? These days you can buy different cars online instead of going into the showroom, right? So most of those ones, based on how they are working, because you can offer them a price, it's not like a fixed price that you have to pay 20,000, you have to pay 20,000, but you can basically, it's more like an auction. So they have put a lot of different automated rules in the background, and they kick in and they checking the real time scenarios, a lot of different things, and they, based on that, they're making the decision. So a lot of these tools are actually built on platforms like Salesforce. So I'm engaged with one of the uh, financial sector. I'm not going to name the institute, but basically they provide home loans. So what used to be the process is, let's say if you need a home loan, you submit to your lender, that could be a bank, and then they submit it to the end company, and then they basically evaluate it. The whole thing will take about anywhere from 5 business days to 10 business days. Now they built like a whole system on Salesforce, automated end to end. It took them about a year and a half, maybe a team of about 50 plus Salesforce consultants. And then what we can do now, which is released about 2 months back, is you can able to go online, put all the information, and on a runtime, it will decide and give you the rate that you can get. And that rate is right now is given to the lenders, and then lender can give them right away to their end users. In future, we are working to give that facility directly to the end users as well. So think about the financial impact. The thing that took 10 days now takes minutes. And think about the amount of processing that they are doing in terms of loans and how big of a money. Because again, if you don't like it, you say, I don't like the rates, you go back for it. Takes months sometimes, right? Weeks and months. Now it's everything is instant. You can just put it out there, and same thing can happen in a lot of different type of biddings. Previously, all of these things will be done on a fixed price. So if you have a fixed price, you can go buy it, that's it. But now let's say you need to have somebody sitting behind the curtain and making the decisions. Now we are replacing those human people who used to make decision, and making very advanced and very competitive rules. And then we input those rules into Salesforce, test it out, provide them inputs from different systems, and then they are making decisions as a person is making decisions. So usually that decision, that what if the loan should be given or not, because they need to also check a couple of other parameters, that if the record is good, if the history is good, what is the current rate today, what is, a lot of these things goes in there. Is a house in a certain zip code has a different type of thing. So they go through a lot of different checks before they decided, and that used to be done by actual human beings. But now we are creating different rules that can basically automate all of these process. And that's what you guys will be doing in future if you get a job in Salesforce. So if you working for a financial institution or a healthcare or whatever area that you end up in pharmaceutical. So I don't know if you guys know, like huge number of pharmaceutical companies, huge number of medical centers, they're all using Salesforce now, because they are automating, they're keeping there, because all of them are customers. They need a customer relationship management system, which is Salesforce. And again, Salesforce is one of the very top-notch system. So lot of non-profits, healthcare systems, financial systems, they're all using it, and that is basically the backbone of it. And that's why this is the first step of understanding Salesforce, getting the admin. This is just you're just tasting how it looks like. This is nothing basically. This is just your first step into the Salesforce domain. Salesforce has now about 25 to 30 different certifications. From this point onwards, you can become a very technical person, or you can also become a very functional person. Both of them, as much as technical knowledge you have, even you don't want to work 100% technically, but even the non-technical or functional roles do require you to have a good understanding of the clouds, understanding of how they're working. Maybe you're not going in and coding something, but you need to know how this configuration works, how they're talking to other system, how the integration will happen, what does it mean if you're in functional role. If you are like a business analyst, you need to understand that how this system will be integrated, because based on that you need to ask all the right questions. Because if you don't understand the system, how would you take the requirements? Because your customer who is sitting on the other side, he don't know nothing about Salesforce. They're assuming you know it. So that's why a lot of business development and a lot of project management jobs, Typically, they do not really require domain expertise, but now they are. Most of the project managers in Salesforce, are they are trying to get people who have Salesforce background, who understand it. Although it's not really that they're getting into and doing all the configuration, sometimes they do, but they need people, because unless you know how Salesforce is working, what is happening behind the scenes, how would you provide any feedback to your customer? How would you work with your team? If you're a project manager and if I have no idea, how do I know if this task I'm assigning to my developer, how long would it take? So basically, even if you are planning to work 100% technical or non-technical, without technical, there's no scope in Salesforce. You need to know technical, no matter if you're program manager, project manager, business analyst. As much as you know, it would be better for you. Yeah, you may end up not actually sitting in front of computer and coding, but again, I would say if you are in this industry for long run, coding is something really, really helpful. If you say what is the number one requirement in Salesforce in terms of jobs, is the developer. Number one, hands down. Even you need like very less number of architects, because for full project you just need one architect. But in terms of developers, sometimes you need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20. So if I'm talking about the team of 50 people, I would say 40 of them are actually developers. Think about it. So maybe 3 of them are Scrum Master, 3 of them are POs, 3 of them are project managers, 1 lead, that's it. So 10 people are functional, 40 people are developers, hands down developers, or QA, right? QA is also, again, same thing. QA used to be very manual, meaning that you go into the application, you test a couple of things. Salesforce and most of the other, even the other traditional clouds, not anymore. You need to know automation, and for automation, you need to know coding. So even QA jobs, I know a lot of people who used to work in QA, very handsome salaries, very set. Now they're all of a sudden start using their jobs and no other jobs. Of course not. I mean, if you're in a certain domain and you don't know what is coming, it's not the fault of the domain. It's the person's fault. He's just closing his eyes, relaxing, whatever. And obviously, if he loses his job, as long as his job, it's fine. Once he loses the job, back into the market, your expertise are obsolete. Nobody wants you. And if you're a new person and you are trying to say, oh, I have an admin certification, I know admin, and can I get a 100K job? Probably not. You need to know a little bit more. You need to get a couple of more certifications, need to get a hands-on experience. That's why anybody who talk to me first time, I tell them, first thing you need to know is to find out how you can land a non-profit or a volunteer position in Salesforce while you're studying, right? It could be any non-profit. It could be maybe some of your friends, somebody working on it. There are a lot of companies who are very small. Maybe some of your friends own that company. Maybe they can say, oh yeah, if you want to spend a couple of hours a week, work on a project, volunteer, sure, go ahead and do that. Or maybe if you know a non-profit, they can take it. And even if you don't know, you can actually explicitly look for non-profit, volunteer, paid, intern, entry-level position. Because again, think about these systems, they are very sensitive. If you do some mistake, you can end up deleting your admin. You end up deleting their data. You end up deleting a lot of critical information for the business. You may end up doing a big mess. Maybe you haven't done any backup and you did something which screw up the database or something else. Then so it's not something then they let anybody to sit on a system and start. That's why working on a non-profit or volunteer position, intern position is critical if you don't have IT background. Yeah, if you have IT background, if you're working as a QA for some time, or if you're working as a developer, then you understand all those steps. And then for you to migrate, it's not as difficult as something coming into new or something who don't have any idea how to manage these systems. So some of these things are also keep in mind, although it looks like pretty straightforward, but again, it's not about is it easy or hard. It's about if they're giving you 100,000, obviously there is something that they're expecting. Instead of like a $10 an hour job, if you're getting 30, 40, 50 hours in job, like 5x more, what is the reason why they're paying it? Although some of these $10 jobs are more physically intense, you will be sitting on your standing on your feet all day long, and just pay like $9, $10, $12, or you're driving all day long and you're making $12, $13 an hour. Versus if you're working in a Salesforce consultant, you make on average $45 to $65 an hour. So $55 an hour on average, if you're making, what is that you're providing which is making you eligible for that position? So obviously you need to be that tech savvy. You need to be make sure that you're looking outside the box. You're not just relying on I can do something quick and I can get it, because you may end up getting a job, but you may actually kicked out of from the same job very quickly as well if you don't know. Do you know how the system works? Do you know what is SDLC? Do you know what is the agile? Do you know? So all of these things are part of it. It's not just you learn something on a side and then this is just in isolation. Everything works in the system. So most of the Salesforce SDLC, which is short form of software development lifecycle, works in an agile process. So if you're going for an interview, probably they might ask you a couple of questions about agile. Probably they ask you a couple of questions about the deployments, integrations. They might ask you a couple of questions about this. And you're like, oh, you know what? I haven't worked in that. How do I know all these things? So think about when you graduate from your bachelor's, right? As a lawyer, as a doctor, you don't know all those things, but you learn, you get internships, you get, you learn step by step, you do a lot of things. And then eventually you can able to become that doctor who knows everything. And then you, one day you become a specialist and then basically you know more. So same thing in IT, you need to, you understand the concept. Now you need to learn the things in the environment. So make sure if you don't know what agile is, you don't know how SDLC work, you don't know what integration means, is start reading articles, start reading videos, there are a lot of free stuff available. If you want to save your time, then you can take courses, then you can take paid courses, because the only difference between the free stuff and paid stuff is it will save you time. So if you have extra time available, you don't want to spend money, that's fine too. If you're short on time, you want to make sure you can use the maximum, then you can pay and take a paid course and get the stuff out of the way. So same thing as you're taking this course, 6 weeks, 6 classes, you can get everything condensed into this course, so you can take the full advantage and you can save time. It's not something that I'm teaching you which you cannot get it for a free session. You can get it, but basically that might take you 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and by that time you can probably lose the enthusiasm about it or something, and it might be harder for you. So basically